We are getting closer and closer to the 2025 NFL Draft, as it is now just a couple of days away, and today I thought we'd do a fun video where we take a look at some NFL prospects in this year's class who had dads who played in the league. That usually helps give a player a leg up, or helps them get through the college football process easier if a dad's in the league. So we're going to go ahead and go through 10 examples of that in today's video. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about 10 NFL draft prospects who had dads in the league. Okay, so the first guy we need to talk about is going to be Mason Taylor. Mason is a tight end, and his dad was Jason Taylor, and he was an NFL All-Pro edge rusher. Jason played at Akron from 1993 to 1996 and was taken by the Dolphins in the third round. In his NFL career, he had 788 total tackles, 140 sacks, 8 picks, 46 forced fumbles, and 9 defensive touchdowns. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler on 3 teams and led the entire NFL in sacks in 2002 with 18.5, but spent most of his 14-year career with the Dolphins on 3 different stints. His son Mason Taylor was a 3-star tight end in the class of 2022, and he came out of St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he would sign with LSU. He was an instant contributor in Baton Rouge with 400 yards and 3 touchdowns his true freshman year. In 2023, he had 348 yards and a touchdown, and then his junior year in 2024, he had 546 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's considered one of the NFL Draft's best tight end prospects because of his length and athleticism, and should go on day 2 of the draft. It's funny, the Dolphins are the team who are projected to take him. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about E.J. Smith, the son of Emmitt Smith. Obviously, Emmitt was a Hall of Fame running back who was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys out of Florida in the first round of the 1990 NFL Draft. He finished his 14-year career as the league's leading rusher with 18,355 yards, as well as 164 rushing touchdowns. He played in Dallas from 1990 to 2002 before spending 2 seasons in Arizona. He was a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Cowboys, an 8-time Pro Bowler, and a 4-time rushing yards leader. His son EJ probably won't have the same type of career that Emmitt did, but he was a 4-star running back recruit coming out of Jesuit High School in Dallas and was a part of the class of 2020. He originally committed to Stanford. As a freshman in Palo Alto, he had no carries, but ended up catching 3 passes. The next year, he had over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown, and then in 2022, he had 200 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. His best season would come in 2023 with 218 yards and a score, and after his senior year, he would transfer to Texas A&M to be closer to home and ran for 200 yards as a backup. Our third guy we're going to talk about is Carson Bruner. His dad was Mark Bruner, and he was a really good tight end for the Washington Huskies from 1991 to 1994, and finished his college career with over 1,000 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. He was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round of the 97 draft, and would play with them until 2004, when he signed with the Texans, and then would play with Houston until 2008. He finished his career with over 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns, and after he retired, he served as the head of the NFL Players Committee, and has been an area scout for the Steelers since 2018. His son Carson was a 3-star linebacker coming out of Redmond, Washington, and was part of the class of 2020. He was redshirted his first year, but saw action his redshirt freshman season in 2021 when he had 70 tackles. In 2022, he had just 45 tackles, but then bumped it up to 86 his junior season. During his final season this past year, he had over 100 tackles and 3 picks, and he's not supposed to be taken as high as his dad was, but he is expected to be drafted. Up next, we're going to get to the first of the Sanders boys, as one of them is Shiloh Sanders. He is not in nearly the same stratosphere as Shedeur is, but as a safety coming out of Trinity Christian in the class of 2019, Shiloh was a 3-star recruit and originally committed to South Carolina. As a freshman, though, he didn't really get on the field, and during his redshirt freshman season, he had just 32 tackles before he would transfer to follow his dad over to Jackson State. He had 4 picks in 13 games in 2022, and then had just 1 in 2023. He also followed his dad to Colorado, where he was a rotational safety. He would have 70 tackles in 2023 and 55 in 2024, and honestly, I'm not sure if he'll get drafted, but someone might take him because of his dad, or as a late flyer. Our next guy up is going to be Jordan Clark. His dad is Ryan Clark. Ryan played safety at LSU from 1997 to 2001 and went undrafted. He'd signed with the Giants in 2002 and played there for 2 years, and then played for the Redskins for 2 more. He then finally caught on with the Steelers in 2006 and would play there until 2013. After that, he'd spend one more year in Washington before retiring. He finished his NFL career with 938 tackles, 4 sacks, and 16 interceptions, with most of this stuff coming with the Steelers. His son Jordan Clark was a 3-star corner, and he came out of University Lab High School in Baton Rouge and was part of the class of 2019. He'd originally committed to Louisiana Lafayette, but a late boost in his recruiting had him almost as a 4-star, and he'd go to ASU. He played at Arizona State for 4 years, racking up 3 picks and 139 tackles in 40 games before he'd enter the portal as a grad transfer and actually ended up at Notre Dame for 2024. With the Fighting Irish, he had 37 tackles, 5 pass deflections, and an interception, and is not supposed to get drafted, but is technically a draft prospect. We get to go over to the wide receiver spot as we need to talk about Moose Muhammad III. He's the son of Muhsin Muhammad. He played at Michigan State from 1991 to 1995 and was good enough there under Nick Saban to be drafted by the Panthers in the second round of the 1996 NFL Draft. He would play in Carolina until 2005, where he'd spend 3 years with the Bears and then went back to Carolina for 2 years before retiring in 2009. He finished his NFL career with over 11,000 receiving yards and 62 touchdowns to go along with 2 Pro Bowls. He also led the NFL in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns back in 2004. His son Moose was a 4-star receiver coming out of Myers Park High School in Charlotte. This was the same place as Drake May, and he was part of the class of 2020. He ended up committing to Texas A&M, where he played his entire college career. He redshirted his freshman season in 2020, and then in 2021, he had 153 yards and 4 scores. He sort of blossomed as a sophomore in 22, with over 600 yards and 4 touchdowns, but his production would take a dip after that. He had just 345 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2023, and then in 2024, he had just 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a projected undrafted player, but I think he'll at least get a camp invite. For our next guy, we need to talk about Kevin Winston Jr., and he's obviously the son of Kevin Winston Sr. Kevin Sr. was an edge rusher at JMU who started full 4 years for the Dukes back when they were in FCS Power from 2003 to 2006. While at James Madison, he had 99 total tackles, 13.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. He was one of the better players in the A-10 and was actually projected to be drafted in 2007, but his name was not called. He made the NFL in the preseason camps, but either didn't stick around or didn't want to be there because he wasn't there very long, and I actually can't find on the internet which team he had signed a training camp contract with. But his son Kevin Winston Jr. will have a much better career, as he was a 4-star safety coming out of DeMatha Catholic High School in Maryland and committed to Penn State in the class of 2022. He came up late with the Nittany Lions and had just 16 tackles his freshman year, but then had 61 tackles and an interception in 2023 and was an All Big Ten honorable mention. He didn't play all that much in 2024 because he tore his ACL, but he's still projected to be a 3rd-round pick. Honestly, based on research, I could not find that many guys who had dads in the league, so we're going to go ahead and talk about a guy who had an uncle in the league, and that is Demetrius Knight Jr. and D'Angelo Hall. And he was a 1st-round pick at corner out of Virginia Tech, who played with the Falcons from 2004 to 2007, then with the Raiders in 2008, and then with the Redskins from 2009 to 2017. During his NFL career, he had made 3 Pro Bowls and had 43 interceptions, 2 sacks, and 10 defensive touchdowns. His nephew Demetrius was originally a 3-star quarterback in the class of 2019, and he went to Strong Rock Christian School in Georgia, but he would switch to linebacker during his freshman year after he would sign with Georgia Tech. He spent 4 years with the Yellow Jackets, finishing with 30 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and then he would transfer to Charlotte for 2023. With the Niners, he had 96 tackles and 1.5 sacks, and then would grad transfer to South Carolina in 2024, where he had over 82 tackles, 2 sacks, and a pick. Because of his older age, he could be drafted anywhere from the end of the 2nd to going all the way to the 7th, but he is projected to be drafted, and I guess you could say this is a pretty big deal. For our second to last guy, we need to talk about the Hoberts. We have Joey Hobert and his dad, Billy Joe, as he played quarterback for the Washington Huskies and then was their quarterback when they led claim to a 1991 national title. He had to leave college early due to a scandal, but finished with over 3,000 yards and 27 touchdowns in '93, and the Raiders took him in the 3rd round of that year's draft. He played there until 1997, when he would sign with the Bills, but he only lasted a month after he didn't read the playbook, and they cut him. He finished his career as a backup at the Colts in 2000 and sort of flamed out. His son is drastically different than he was, while Joey is 5'11" and 190 pounds, and was a 3-star recruit in the class of 2020 from San Juan Hills in California. he decided to commit to Washington State, and as a true freshman, he had 3 catches for 31 yards, and then had 192 yards the following season. But after that, he would transfer to Utah Tech, and then he ended up having 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns, which got him back on the FBS radar and would go to Texas State. He was with the Bobcats in both 2023 and 2024, as he had 895 yards and 8 touchdowns last year, and then 680 yards and 8 touchdowns this year. I'm not sure if he's going to get drafted, but he'll at least get a training camp invite probably. And last but not least, we get to talk about Shedeur Sanders. We don't need to talk much about his dad, as he was an all-world player at Florida State, won the Jim Thorpe Award, was drafted in the first round, and had an incredible NFL career. He ended up becoming the head coach at Jackson State in 2020, and then Colorado, and obviously his son Shedeur decided to follow him. He was a big-time quarterback prospect coming out of Trinity Christian High School in Texas, and was part of the class of 2021. He was considered a 4-star with a bunch of big-time offers, and he would originally commit to FAU before flipping to Jackson State. He then went there and started immediately, going 11-2 in 2021 with over 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. In 2022, the team went 12-1, and he had nearly 3,700 yards again, and this time with 40 touchdowns. He then would follow his dad to Colorado, and with the Buffs, he went 4-7 in year 1 and threw for 3,200 yards and 27 scores, and decided not to declare for the draft. He had a Heisman campaign his senior season, going 9-4 and throwing for 4,100 yards and 37 touchdowns. He's a projected top 10 pick and franchise quarterback, and definitely has a ton of hype to him. So yeah, today we took a look at 10 draft prospects who had NFL dads. Actually, I mean 9, as one of them was an uncle, but you guys get the point. This year was a little bit less than last season in terms of dads who are in the league. And what do you guys think? Is there a player I missed? Who's a prospect I should cover in the draft? And what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.